I think that Terry is such a great example. I love the idea, like we all have different parts of ourselves, and I love the fact, first of all, that you, like we did a Hero's Journey workshop this week, and it's kind of about like seeing the theme of your story. And that's why I'm talking to you, like collaboration, the way you're talking about the universe and the law that you're drawn to. So I love, again, ways that we can bring together different interests in, you know, surprising ways. So thank you, Terry. So our next speakers are Mary Ellen Young and Sandra McDonnell. And a lot of you probably know these girls from HGNA. A lot of our girls have gone through, it's now called Navigate Adolescence. And it really starting, I think, a community collaboration. A lot of us, although I did not volunteer, Cindy, did you volunteer?
No.
A lot of people here volunteered. And again, a lot of girls and now boys going through the program. And the collaboration that they have with one another in driving this great nonprofit forward, and another mission, just the mission they share about helping young people and starting, they created a product together. So two really lovely ladies that please join me in welcoming.
My name is Sandra. And I'm Mary Ellen. And we bring the cool. All right, so we love a good acronym, so please indulge us as we go through this. "13. The one thing that we all have in common is that we were all 13 at one time." I invite you to think back to that time. Yeah. Well, regardless of where you grew up or how you grew up, you probably can recall the explosive highs and lows of adolescence, especially when it comes to your girlfriends. And how many of you now or have parented girls? Yeah. And I don't know why I said have, because are we ever done? I know someone is telling me a story about their 20-something, you know, still calling us for advice. So, well, in 2004, Tina Fey wrote the hit film Mean Girls, a hilarious portrayal of the often nasty and cliquish behavior between some girls in mostly white, middle-class cultures like this one. For decades, it was believed that teen girls could be, you know, gossipy, backstabbing bitches who couldn't be trusted. And girls would go to any length at all to be popular and to be part of the in crowd. Let's take a look.
Gretchen thinks you're mad at her because she's running for spring fling with me. Oh my god, I'm not mad at her. I'm worried about her. I think somebody nominated her as a joke or something. I hope nobody votes for her. She's gonna have a total meltdown. Who's going to have to take care of her? Me. So you don't think anyone will vote for her? Katie, she's not pretty. I mean, that sounds bad, but whatever. The spring fling queen is always pretty. Now, the crazy thing is that it should be Karen. People forget about her because she's such a slut. Alright, I gotta go. I'm going to bed. Well, she's not mad at you. Hold on. Are you okay? Shh. Hello? If someone says something bad about you, you'd want me to tell you, right? No. What's your friend? What do you... Hold on, other line. I'm not taking this anymore. Good for you, Gretch. Hello? Let's go out. Okay, hold on, I'm on the other line with Gretchen. Don't invite Gretchen, she's driving me nuts. Hold on, okay, hurry up. It's Regina. She wants to hang out with me tonight, but she told me not to tell you. Do not hang out with her. Why? You don't want me to tell you. Oh, you can tell me. Hold on. Oh my god, she's so annoying. Who is? Who is this? Gretchen? Right. Hold on. Oh my god, she's so annoying. forever. Okay, what is it? Virginia says everyone hates you because you're such a slut. She said that? You didn't hear it from me. Little harsh, Gretch. Whatever, she has a right to know. I can't go out. I'm sick. Boo, you whore.
Ah, yeah, remember call waiting? And now we have that lovely three-way secret phone call, right? So our mothers would tell us to just ignore this behavior, that it's just a phase you have to get through, that it would make you stronger. But around the turn of the century, this century, and we're talking like the late 90s, early 2000s, researchers actually started studying this girl behavior. And guess what they discovered? They discovered that it is not normal age-appropriate behavior. It's actually learned behavior. And it's very manipulative and very passive-aggressive. And it's actually often a form of bullying. So not the bullying that we're used to, that boys do, the physical verbal bullying, but it's all that sneaky covert tactics that often are out of the eyesight of adults, but every bit as damaging because sometimes the negative impact stays with us our whole life. And perhaps most importantly, this behavior sows the seeds for how girls learn to feel about themselves and how to be in relationship with each other. So I was on the District 58 Board of Education at this time when I received this publication in the mail. This is the National School Board magazine. And look at that cover story, How Girls Hurt, the Quiet Violence in Your School. And my reaction was, violence? Because I grew up believing that old paradigm that this is just how girl culture worked. This is just how some girls were. So imagine how stunned I was to read about the long and short-term negative impacts of relational aggression, which was the new term that they applied to girl bullying, and how the impact it had on girls both emotionally and academically. So I wondered, why aren't we talking about this? This was all late, breaking research. And if it was learned behavior, then where were the girls learning it? And if they were learning it, couldn't something be done about that? So in 2003, I took these questions to a forum at the Downers Grove Library, and the standing room only crowd told us that we had indeed hit a nerve. And the story of helping girls navigate adolescence, or HGNA, began. And that was the start, you're right, of a community collaborative effort. And I look around this room and I see so many people here who have been part of that effort, people who have served on the board, people who have volunteered, people who have supported us financially, which has been really important, who have signed up their children for our programs, people who have offered their yoga studio to us so we can offer programs for girls in yoga. So it has been a great collaborative effort.
All right, C is for connection. I became connected to HGNA in 2006, shortly after it formed, when one of the founding members who knew my passion for women's and society's issues thought I might be interested in this topic, and it turns out I was. I was on the board for about 3 years before I became the president of the board in 2009, and since then my connection to the organization and the values it represents has deepened. Over the years, HGNA grew to provide social-emotional learning workshops for kids in grades K through 8, and we currently serve about 1,000 young people and their parents in our community every year. The core of the work we do is about connections. It's about healthy connections and relationship to self and to others. One of the principles Mary Ellen and I established early on was that to be successful, we had to walk our talk. We had to do that by learning, practicing, and modeling the attributes of healthy relationships. Those of trust, honesty, respect, gratitude, vulnerability, and above all, assertive communication. We strove to make these guiding principles throughout the organization, in our relationship with our board members, with the girls in our programs, with their parents, with the community, and above all, with each other. One of the key and most important of these attributes, and central to mine and Mary Ellen's connection, has been our ability to communicate openly and honestly when we collaborate. Like many girls in our culture, Mary Ellen and I learned early that if we wanted people to like us, we had to be nice, we had to be passive, we had to hide our strong feelings and never appear angry. In my home, there was a lot of sarcasm, a lot of aggressive communication. The critical skill of assertive communication, which is saying what you feel in a mutually respectful way, was something that was not modeled for me, nor did I see it in our world. Think of how often assertive, powerful women are perceived as bitchy and aggressive. All these amazing women, right? But what do we hear about them? When we can't be honest with each other, we stifle our feelings and use passive-aggressive communication, lies, sarcasm, and gossip. We sabotage our relationships. Over the years, we have heard stories of the many women who have been deeply wounded by their past friendships. And these memories can still bring up tears 20 and 30 years later. That damage can have long-lasting repercussions and wreak havoc on your adult relationships. It creates a distrust that many women have for other women in all sorts of relationships. And it creates a narrative that gets passed down from mother to daughter. When we encourage our daughters not to trust girls. We never get to listen. And we tell them not to trust their motives. This is why we've been so dedicated to this work of creating healthy connections, both internally and externally.
So through working together closely with a willingness to be open and honest and vulnerable, we have talked at length about our own upbringings and how those experiences inform and shape who we are as adults. And we learned that it was that critical skill of self-awareness around our beliefs and our wounds and those things that trigger us and those things that keep us stuck. Because all of that really impacts all of our relationships, but especially the relationships that we have with the children in our care. So in other words, we have to own our story. My tiny, and when I say tiny, I'm talking about 2-bedroom, 1-bath childhood home, was chaotic but loving. My 5 sisters and I slept in the 2nd floor attic. Now you may be tempted to call it a dormer, but I can tell you this unconditioned room in August was a hot box. Sometimes my parents' friends would come over and they would ask my mom, can we just go up there and look? Because how did all those people squeeze into that 2nd floor attic? So my only brother, oh, did I mention the crown prince of our family? Of course, he wasn't born yet, he was the baby. So he ended up with 7 mothers, and today is a psychologist. My parents were profoundly Catholic, which probably goes without saying in this picture. But we were raised with very strong family values. Obedience was expected, and who had time for energy, time or energy for feelings? Sandra's upbringing in an Indiana steel town with 1 sister, 2 difficult parents, and a beloved aunt who stepped in when needed taught her a lot about resilience. But at that time, think about it, in most homes and schools and neighborhoods, shame, guilt, control, denial, those were all the pillars of parenting. And so despite very different upbringings, we both learned that it was through self-awareness that we have the power to change. And so, for example, I learned to name and honor my feelings without judgment and to practice self-care. I'm getting very good at self-care. To let go of shame and forgive my mistakes, and to know that I'm enough. And after hating my freckles and my tallness and my big feet most of my life, I've learned that it's what's on the inside that counts. At least that's what I'm a work in progress, but that is what we teach girls. So it's not until we can own our own story that we can help kids develop theirs. And this is where we connected, because that synergy is where our work took on its energy. Now, we not only work with kids, we do a lot of parent education as well. And when we work with parents, we often hear this: please help me fix my kids. But we know it's really not the kids. It's not about the kids. It starts with us, the adults. Because when we don't own our story and understand what it means for us, then we risk just passing on that dysfunction mindlessly to the next generation, or doing a 180 and just saying, by God, I'm going to do everything different than my parents did with me. But when we own our stories, we can mindfully use the past to support our growth, allowing the past to shape us, but not necessarily define us, and allowing us to become the people and the parents who can truly foster and nurture the growth in children.
All right, so now we have O's for opposites. Our partnership, like the yin and the yang, is sometimes a clash of opposites, but also a blending of strengths to create balance. Mary Ellen is a pragmatist who loves a good spreadsheet. I can't even work my way through. But she's also a very big idea person. I'm a person who is more of an optimist, and someone who likes to breathe the life into the spreadsheets and into the ideas. However, Mary Ellen is also creative, and I'm also practical and detail-oriented. So there's a lot of constant back and forth of ideas and tweaks that create the balance. For example, when we are working on curriculum or a presentation, both of us feel entirely free to voice our opinion of the other's idea, and comments like, oh no, that is lame, are very important, because they're things that we need to be honest with. Because when they are delivered respectfully and received thoughtfully, they make good work move forward and keep us from getting stuck in polite exchanges of work that misses the mark. Other honest comments, such as, that looks nothing like a dolphin, which was my honest assessment of a sketch of Mary Ellen's, who is amazing at many things, but drawing is not high on the list, are the things that keep our working relationship strong and our friendship stronger. And we do, we laugh a lot. And we also have a mutual love of chocolate in all forms, and almond coffee cake from Busy Bee Bakery. Our marathon working sessions are not necessarily centered around the snacks, but they always include the detail of who's bringing them. Through the years of closely working together, we've also discovered a knack for showing up wearing the same basic outfit or the same basic colors. This was, of course, intentional, but we've now learned to text ahead of time and ask that age-old question, what are you wearing? So, and just looking at the slide, you can see another way where we might be seen as opposites. Mary Ellen is tall, and I'm less tall. In the picture on the far right there, I am actually standing on a 6-inch rock. We were trying to take pictures for our book, and we wanted it to look a little more balanced. So, this balance of a pragmatist and an optimist, big visions and small details, tall and less tall, I like less tall, have created many things: programs, curriculum, fundraisers, and acronyms. And somehow our work is never quite complete without a good acronym. So if you look at our curricula or tips for parents, there's always one present. Hence today's COOL, homage to the acronym. But perhaps one of our biggest collaborations has been our book, and which does in fact contain an acronym. Or two.
Popular life coach Martha Beck suggests that we all do something that scares us every day. And I think Sandra and I did that every day for about 2 years. After several parents would ask us, is there any resource that you know of that my daughter could use at home to supplement some of the relationship and social emotional skills that they were learning at the HDNA programs? We thought about it and we thought, we don't really know of anything good. So we decided to develop one. And so we formed Authentic Me, which is theoretically a for-profit company that would focus on products and parent workshops that really just wasn't within the scope of HGNA as a nonprofit. So we did focus groups with girls, we did brainstorming sessions and multiple drafts and iterations, and then finally Elements for Girls was created, which is perhaps our greatest physical example of collaboration. Using my knowledge and experience of the Illinois Social Emotional Learning Standards, which were developed in 2004, and which are those key skills, those life skills that every child and we all need to, but now they teach them in school. I did most of the content, the writing, and then Sandra edited the writing and did all of the design and layout of the book. And then she worked closely with my daughter, who did all of the original art in the book, because we've established that I do not know how to draw anything.
It was just a concept drawing.
So Elements is spiral bound, and it's part journal, part workbook, and it's focused on helping girls develop self-awareness, self-acceptance, how to handle stress, how to be a good friend, how to make good decisions. And it comes with a bracelet kit that the girls put together as they're working their way through the book, which then becomes a visual reinforcement of the lessons learned in the book. So we work closely every single day, talking through decisions, often laughing and at times crying, and I mean crying, like the time when the name for our book for a year and a half was going to be Uniquely Me, and we stumbled on right before publishing, we found out that Girl Scouts USA was naming their brand new curriculum Uniquely Me. And we felt that they probably, we did not know about it, but we thought they probably wouldn't believe that we had tried to copyright that. So eventually we celebrated by publishing the book in late 2013. And so to us, collaboration means, going with the flow and growing and changing and evolving, because those challenges actually end up bringing opportunity.
Which brings us to O for opportunity. For years, people asked us why we only offered programs for girls. As a mother of a son, I'm very well aware that the way our culture defines masculinity is toxic for our boys. But our plates were very full. So when a group of women offered to support this work, we were all in. So in the last 2 years, we've rebranded to become Navigate Adolescence and collaborated with many, many people to offer a multitude of programs for boys, which have now expanded into new communities. And what an opportunity to move the needle forward on creating better relationships for all of us when our boys are learning the same skills as our girls are. So HGNA, Authentic Me, Navigate Adolescence. Regardless of the name of the entity, the work has been a wonderful experience for us to learn, share, and grow. We have experienced firsthand what it looks like and feels like to be part of creating a village. And we have also experienced firsthand what happens when relationships to self and others are truly nurtured, which brings us to the L in cool. L for our lessons learned. When I got involved with HGNA 13 years ago, it was because while my upbringing wasn't ideal, my female friendships throughout life have been, and I knew firsthand the strength in that. Through work that started with helping girls deal with relationship struggles, we have been able to sharpen our own relationship skills, which really takes a lifetime. Through our collaborative efforts in designing programs that help kids and adults develop healthy relationships, we have in turn developed our own friendship. Only a dear friend would throw you a 50th surprise party, complete with me going, I had no idea, truly no idea, and everyone was there. Or cry with you when your beloved dog dies, or celebrate your children's successes, listen when you share your troubles, and actually, Mary Ellen took the trash out at my children's graduation parties. That's a good friend. So we have become much more than collaborators. We have become friends. And this work has sharpened my insight into what it takes to disrupt the narrative of women being viewed as competitors, as not being able to communicate directly, and as not to be trusted. Women are awesome, and I have learned that we can collaborate and succeed at collaboration despite what our culture would have us believe.
HGNA was founded after learning that mean girls aren't born that way. How girls learn to cope with fear, self-doubt, competition, jealousy, and that desperate need to belong is learned behavior. And girls can learn it, either those skills in a healthy way or in a toxic way. So that brings us to learn from who? Well, it's all of us. It's the female role models in their life, whether it be their mom, their teacher, their sisters. They learn it watching TV shows, watching movies, and in other forms of media. And whether it's real or it's just that perpetuated stereotype, the idea that females are, clique-building, catty gossipers leads to that pain and distrust in female relationships. So the lesson here is that we can recognize this behavior for what it is, call it out, And through self-awareness, we can change it. And we can change the way that we connect. So we can all practice a little more loving kindness with each other and a lot more self-compassion with ourselves. Be a little less judgmental and more supportive of each other. And model healthy relationships for all the young women in our lives. Paddling through this crazy life isn't easy. We need each other. We are more connected and similar than we often realize, and connection is good. At our core, all we really want is to be seen, valued, and loved. We want that sense of belonging. It is in our human nature. And we do that in the context of relationships, the ones we have with ourselves and the ones we have with others, like the one that Sandra and I have developed over the past 13 years, which has brought the cool into our collaboration. And so imagine a world where young girls learn to be assertive, honest, respectful, as they develop authentic self-worth and collaborate to build healthy relationships. We do. Thank you.
Speaking as someone whose daughter did HGNA years ago, just, you know what, thanks for this important work. It's really amazing how it's really evolved. And I'm wondering about, you said HGNA is now Navigate Adolescence, and boys go to that too?
Yes.
So is it like how does that work? Because when I remember when my daughter did it, it was like she went on a Saturday afternoon or a Saturday.
Yes.
So now
the boys, we have workshops we have a K3 workshop, which is for boys and girls together.
Okay.
And then our 4th and 5th grade program, which is now called Compass, which was Chick Chat, is now still for just girls or for just boys. And then we have a Trek program, which is our middle school transition program, which is just for girls or for boys. Kind of the nuances at that age are important to pick up on.
Yeah.
So while we do everything the same for both, and we're really teaching the same lessons, we do them in just same-sex grouping. We just find more success and more openness that way.
is it well attended with the boys? Do the
You know
boys,
what? It's
are they-
awesome.
Yeah.
Actually, it's amazing. We did it. We put it out there thinking, let's see what happens. And there's nothing like this out there for boys, and it has been so well received.
Right.
The boys love it, and one of our components that we have is the high school mentors. And I think
Oh my gosh, I love that.
yeah, I think they want. We do it now for girls for Chick Chat and for Compass. But they, I think the high school boys get as much out of it because it really is, it's a bridge from the lessons that we're teaching, and the boys are there to say, like, this is how it worked for me, and they make themselves vulnerable, and which is, where the true learning happens. So
Great. Any questions for these ladies? Anybody? Yeah.
I have a question. Hi, Sandra. We actually met last week.
Yes.
I was wondering, I know you were talking about the workbook, and I was wondering, first of all, where can we get copies of the workbook? And then secondly, is there any plan to have a workbook for boys? Or is it?
Did you get the part about our plates are full?
I did. I was like, before the question left my mouth, I was like, should I ask?
It is definitely, we brought the books, we have a few here, so if you're interested and that sweet spot is kind of for girls in like 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th grade. That's kind of where the book really lands well. But we are always definitely, like, we've been 2 years on doing programs for boys, and that's been the first question, is, what for our boys. So we want to make sure it's a good what for the boys. So we definitely have our eye on it. Yeah. Stay tuned.
Cool. Thank you.
Where are you located?
We are located in my basement. Lots and lots and lots of bins. No, we're located in Downers Grove, and we are just, we have virtual office. We have myself as executive director now and an administrative assistant. We both work out of our homes, and then we have hundreds of volunteers, and we have a network of about 50 social workers and counselors who deliver our programs. So we're here, but we deliver programs in Geneva, St. Charles, LaGrange. We're expanding to Elmhurst and Naperville. So, and we have our programs being offered in Northwest Indiana as well. So we're growing.
Any other questions? Yes.
I just wondered what was personally rewarding for you in doing this work?
Do you want to start?
Oh, sure. Can you just repeat the
Yeah, what was personally rewarding for you? Like, different, what is it that really touches your heart from doing the work?
Oh, that's such a big question. The first thing that came to mind, I'll just go with the first thing that came to mind, is when we run into girls who went through the programs that now are in their 20s, and they tell us what an impact it had. You just don't know. They all leave, and you just don't know what impact. But sometimes even, we've had a girl, we always have evaluation forms, and one time a girl wrote that, like, I didn't know that I could choose my friends. Like, she just thought that the people that were being mean to her, that she just had to sort of put up with that. So she said, now I know I have choices, and I know what a good friend is and isn't. And it's just such a basic thing we take for granted. But so that's very rewarding that we know we're really teaching them helpful lessons.
And I would say just recently with, adding the boys, because we, as I said, having a son, I always, growing up with just a sister and just thinking that this was, girls needed this, but boys knew how to handle this all. No, we had one of the evaluations I read, which just touched my heart, was a boy said, I never even knew I had feelings. And so if we do that for one boy, and I know that we don't necessarily hear back from kids because these things impact them years and years, but just seeing that on the evaluation, knowing that we're talking to boys about they have feelings, and that's just going to benefit all of us. So it's those little touchstones.
One of the things from the very beginning with our programs, someone very wise on the board made the suggestion that it's all small group breakout discussions. And it's always been led by professional counselors, social workers, people who really are experienced in that. So I want to say, we thought about using moms. That would have been like the less expensive way to go, but we said, no, these have got to be really skilled people that can bring a group of 10 or 12 girls together and get them to talk. So that has really been the miracle in our programs, is that we find these social workers and counselors from all over the area, and at the end of the day, they love the programs as much as the girls. It's just such an uplifting day. And so for the boys programs, we do the very same thing. They are in group with men, with male counselors and coaches, and it's just awesome. And that, I think, is really what sets that program apart.
Anyone else?
And you can find your programs on your website?
Yes. Yeah, at navigateadolescence.org. They're all listed there. And we have our K-3 program, a little small plug, coming up on May 4th, Saturday, May 4th. But generally then we're done for the program year, we follow the school year, and we'll start again with our middle school transition programs in the fall.
I just want to clarify, because this is a very big thing for this year. For years, people would come to us and ask to share the programs with other communities, so we started doing that with Chick Chat, and that's how Chick Chat and, now Compass, but a couple there in LaGrange and St. Charles. But what we've done in the last 2 years under Sandra's leadership is we have all of our programs are ready to go, supplies and everything, to other communities. So what a community needs is a group willing to organize it and handle registration and lunch, and then we provide the curriculum and all of the supplies at a cost, and that will be unveiling in the fall. So if you want to, if your cousins live in Michigan or something, our programs are going to be mobile, which is very exciting.